Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget you can read my work on ESPN.com. I'll have a bunch of stories throughout the offseason. Taking a look at one big question which is what can Washington do to take that next step to get to the Super Bowl? So how it has changed in a year. And we already know that, but it's still sometimes worth saying because it's still kind of marvel at it sometimes how quickly it's changed here. But that is going to be the big topic this offseason, as opposed to last year, which was who's going to be the quarterback. And the year before was who's going to buy the team. And the year before is who's going to be investigated by Congress, or who else is going to be investigated by Congress, or what's going to happen. So this is about taking the next step. So to get there, a lot of talk about free agency in a couple weeks. To be honest, right now I haven't looked at a lot of free agency because the season just ended. To be honest, my brain was fried. It was a wild ride the last month and a half with the responsibilities that you have, and just it was a blast. It was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. So I haven't looked too much at free agency yet. I am going to have Jordan Reed on from ESPN to talk about the draft in coming weeks, just to get you kind of ready for that 29th pick and what might happen there, because there's going to be a lot of mystery with that. Who's going to be available, what positions might be best suited for that pick, and also beyond. So a little bit of an early taste on the draft, and then we'll start getting to free agency, but also what does this team need to do with their own free agents? What moves in terms of resign, who to resign, who not to resign, et cetera. So all that stuff will be covered in coming weeks, especially on the podcast. I'll still be doing several a week, and just to keep you updated on what's going on. And by the way, owner Josh Harris will address the media on Monday. It's his first chance to talk to us since the season ended. So we'll have a chance to ask whatever questions there and see what he has to say about what he thinks about what happened this past year, which he's going to love, and this where everything is going. So anyways, that's all the plan. Those are the plans I got for you club members. The gold members are still going to be doing those Zooms. Maybe not every week, but definitely going to be doing them. And then for you regular club members, what I want to do for you is get some more Q&As, more mailbag sessions, and also set up some Zooms for you guys to go on there to ask your questions for me just in that private setting. So anyways, there you go. Anyways, today I'm joined by my pal, Nicki Jhabvala from the Washington Post. Always love having Nicki on. You know that because I think she's very smart and knowledgeable, because that's why she's on this beat. Anyways, so here you go. We talk a lot about like Jayden Daniels, stuff that this team has to do, some moves we think they could make, or at least areas to address, and then who some of the players will resign or not resign. But a lot of talk about Jayden and just our impressions of him and just some stuff. It's always good talking about him, and it's fun talking about a young quarterback. So anyways, without further ado, here's my conversation with the Washington Post, Nicki Jhabvala. All right, Nicki. So, by the way, for people listening, Nicki is one of the lucky people who I'm going to bug the hell out of this offseason because I'm already a little bit bored. So that's a great honor for her to have. But Nicki, like we've talked a lot during the year, or just whatever, but just what the last few years have been like for this
hmm
franchise, and just like how would you describe, just from a franchise standpoint, from what we had to do, but just what it's
hmm
been like.
I would say from last year to this year, whiplash. I mean, because you go from like 4-13, bottom of the barrel, no end in sight to the quarterback carousel. It was bad. They played about as poorly as one team can. I mean, they just looked like a team that had totally checked out. The coaching staff, the players, all of it. To this, where they look like a well-run operation with a lot of talented players. They have the quarterback position solidified finally, and with a guy that looks like he could be really, really good for the long haul. Um, a team that looks like they're well coached, well prepared, and hungry. They were fun to watch. So it was a complete 180 from year to year. But even going back further, like you said, I mean, it's been nonstop with this team, both to cover it and then both as a fan too. I would think, just because you go from dealing with one disaster to another in previous years, in one investigation, another investigation, losing, then they're selling, and then you need a team president, then you need a GM, head coaching staff, a quarterback roster. So it's just been 2 years of waiting for the overhaul to happen, then seeing the overhaul happen, and then seeing the early results. So it's been a lot. And it's, for fans who have been loyal for much longer than I've covered the team, it's been decades of watching a lot of mostly not so great football and maybe finally getting to enjoy it.
I can attest to the mostly bad football. I can attest that. But how does this? I mean, it's kind of obvious, but how does this season now change things for them going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's hope for one. I think just getting Jayden changes everything.
Yeah,
You see it on the field, you see it the win-loss record, but having that quarterback position set, I mean, I feel like maybe a decade, 2 decades ago, you could win and go far with a very good quarterback. I think nowadays you have to have one of the elite ones, and there's only so many of those to go around. There's not 32 of them. And I think Jayden proved that he is and has a chance to stay among the elite ones. Staying there is the hard part. So I think getting him was just so huge. I mean, it changes everything. I mean, look at the year Terry's having. Terry's an exceptional player, has been for a long time, but there's no way he would be able to have these kinds of numbers this year with any other quarterback. I mean, we saw it in years past. He still topped 1,000 yards, which is remarkable and a testament to what he does. But you know, the quarterback is what it makes this thing go.
and it's funny because with Terry, it was the red zone stuff too. That was like they didn't use him there much before. Like he had as many red zone
Mhm.
touchdowns this year as he had all his previous 5 years
Mhm.
combined. Like that's just it's shocking to me, like how underused he was in those situations and how they unlocked that here. And I think Jayden was a big part of that.
Mhm.
And at what point for you, like we all, I mean, we're all getting asked this question. What point did you know for
Mhm.
Jayden? But when did you know, and what was it that said something to you that he's different?
I'd say it was the Bengals game. I mean, that game, start to finish, was just a remarkable performance. His first game in prime time, Monday Night Football, gets a hungry Bengals team. He has that 66-yarder to Terry early in the game, but it was that 27-yard touchdown, third down, Bengals in a zero blitz. He gets clobbered by Geno Stone and still sends a dime to Terry, catches it in stride in the back of the end zone. I mean, that was just jaw to the floor, like, oh my God, this kid is ridiculous. Um, and then to see it, happen consistently after that is unbelievable because he then, it's like this is no fluke, you know. Um, I thought the Jets preseason game, the what Quinn called buzzing the tower,
Right.
that throw to Diami, the check, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Um, but to see it in a regular season game, to do what he did against the Bengals was it was phenomenal. Um, and I thought he kind of put the world on notice with that game.
I agree. And it's funny because I think we all felt like watching him in training camp, you always thought he was going to be good. You don't know
Hmm.
when, but
Sure.
that Bengals game and then following it up with that Cardinals game right away where he
Yeah.
was electric the whole game and they were really good the whole game. It's like
Hmm.
this could be something that could be a lot more fun this year than maybe people anticipated.
Right.
But it's funny because even that Jets game, like I can't remember who it was, or whether it was Cosme or Wiley or someone like that the other day was referencing like that's when they knew
Cosme.
it was
Yeah.
Cosme. That's right. It was Cosme saying
No.
that, and that's when he knew. And it's funny because that's a basic football play. And one of the things, and I don't not necessarily to compare him to Caleb Williams, but I remember like his first preseason highlight was him running around and doing all this and throwing it.
Hmm.
Whereas Jayden's preseason highlight was checking out of a play and making the right football play.
Yeah.
Now, we know the coaches weren't necessarily too happy because it's like you gave away a check, but
Yeah.
it didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt him. And
Right.
it was more like, that's a really good play, but let's save it for the regular season.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
that did resonate with the players and the coaches.
Right. Yeah. No, I remember. I mean, I David Blau first mentioned this to me just when I was working that story on him, and then I asked Kingsbury about it in that presser that we were all in, and they both said that during rookie minicamp when they saw him, he went for like 7 for 7, and he's
Mhm.
you know he's taking the checkdowns. Like it's not a sexy play. It's not a, you know, let me dance around the line for 15 seconds and throw a 50-yard bomb. It's a very smart play that most rookies don't know how to do or are unwilling to do. And that's when they both said, like, oh my God, this kid is something. Taking checkdowns. Which I thought was really interesting that, it just showed his poise, but also his intellect, understanding the game. He obviously has no problem taking risks, but he also knows when to be smart about it. So just hearing them say that was when they knew was really telling, I thought.
Well, and that's why he only threw 9 interceptions during the regular season too, because
Hmm.
he's willing
Yep.
to do all that. The key
Hmm.
now, of course, now you have to build on it and do it again.
Hmm.
I don't know if we have I'm going to ask you what is the key there. I don't know if we really know, because if we did, we'd probably be coaching. But
Yeah.
how do what's your confidence level he's going to not just maintain this, but build on it?
Pretty confident. I mean, like, pretty confident that he's going to do all that he can do
Yes.
to do that. I mean, this kid was consistently. This wasn't a I'm new to the team. I'm going to show up early to start and then feel it out. No, he was every single day, always put in the work. I The thing I loved about him was just he was so even keeled during the season and in the tough moments. And then after that loss, I mean, nobody was more devastated than him.
Right.
I mean, he got watery eyes in his post game press conference. He looked like death warmed over the day after. Like, you don't need people to, perform for you, like, with the emotions afterwards. I don't, that's not what we're there for. But it was just very clear that the game meant a lot to him. He takes it seriously. Um, he puts in a ton of work, and I believe him when he says, "I don't want to ever feel that again." Like I know players have said that in the past, but I really do believe him when he says it, because he's he's followed up his words with action so far. So yeah,
I mean, he's lived it too, right? I mean, it's
totally.
funny because like Terry's talked a lot about that the game against the Ravens where he saw him on the bench at the end where he goes,
Hmm.
I've never he had told I know it said it like he'd never seen a quarterback that upset about a game.
Yeah.
And he liked that because
Hmm.
he liked what it meant for him. And it's funny because
Hmm.
like I know there's a lot of talk about CJ Stroud didn't follow up his year like that. So you don't know how it's going to go. I think with Daniels, what I feel very comfortable saying he's going to have a really good career. So you
Yeah.
can't. Who knows year to year how it looks, and there are other things that go into it. But then it's up to them to build around him to give him a little bit more. So what would
Right.
be your priority in doing that for the offseason?
Yeah. A tackle or two. Um, I know Andrew Wiley has another year. I still think he's making money that could, if they decide to keep him, it's still okay money as a reserve. He knows the system, knows the players well. I'm not totally sold on Brandon Coleman as the other tackle. I think he will get better. This is only year one, but you and I have talked about this about, what would it look like if you moved him inside. Um, but I just think they need to fortify that line. They were pretty good this season, much better than I expected. Um, but I think part of that too is Jayden. He just, with what he can do with his legs, he's just a smart quarterback. He can mask a lot of deficiencies on the line and elsewhere. So that would be one. Both lines actually. They need more pass rushing.
Yep.
They need, good Lord, they need a better run defense.
Yeah.
um, I still don't quite understand why they weren't better. They had the talent on that side of the ball, um, but there were so many missed tackles, and they just got to be better there. So the trenches, I would say, is one, and then a secondary. Figure out. I mean, I think Sanders still can be a good corner. I hope they keep Jeremy Chin at safety. It'll probably depend on what his market looks like. I think Quan is a player on the rise. Um, you hope Lattimore can be more like the player he was a couple of years ago than last year. But I still think they need depth and help there. And then the other one, receiver, both tight end and wide receiver. I'm always of the mind that it's better off drafting receiver than paying one, especially given the cap charge of what Terry has, and you can restructure Terry, but I think you know, I don't know what their plan is there for Terry, but maybe it would make sense to give him a new deal at this point because he's very good and means a lot to this team and this locker room. But you can't have like to me that when you already had two defensive tackles on massive deals that weighed down the salary cap, you don't want to do that to two receivers.
Right.
So you got to kind of spread the money there. But they do need more weapons for Jayden.
Yeah, and I think like that to me too. And it's funny with the line, it's as much for Jayden, but also that run game, which
Mm-hmm.
indirectly helps him because I felt like
Mm-hmm.
the run blocking wasn't where it needed to be
Mm-hmm.
consistently. And I don't know, like I know Brian Robbins is going to get a lot of heat on that, and is he's not going to be that elite back. But I think you got to start with the run blocking, and then if you can find
Mm-hmm.
another dynamic back in the third, fourth round,
Mm-hmm.
or that speedy receiver, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you can add some speed there for Jayden, I think then you can really and I mean whether or not they bring Diami or Noah Brown back, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like you can
I
supplement.
would like him to add some size too, especially if they don't
Yeah.
plan to re-sign Zach Ertz, which I don't know of, but you need that red zone threat.
Would you resign
It,
him?
yeah, maybe on a 1 year, nothing more.
Oh,
I thought he
I
played.
think at this point it's all 1 year deals for him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he played well. It's just, can he do that again? I thought you never know with any player at that
Right.
age. Though if they do look at the veteran market, I mean, I know Keenan Allen previously said he would only want to do the Chargers or the Bears, but this was a while ago, and minds can change. And I don't think they should splurge. But he's what, 33? He's at the point in his career where maybe he would probably get a little bit less, bigger receiver, still consistent. Might that be, and then like second tier option for them? That could be an interesting pairing for Jayden to have a Keenan Allen type and Terry, but we'll see.
And I think it's get to me get another playmaker out there, whether it's
Yeah.
there's the little one
Like,
popping in, there he is, but just
hey, what are you doing?
get another playmaker, whether it's running back, receiver, whatever. And I'd be okay bringing Ertz back and you could remember what Quinn said is
Hmm.
that, I viewed him as a third down red zone guy, and then it kind of graduated to more, but maybe you can go back to that role, kind of save him, but look for someone else younger. I don't know if Ben Sinnott's going to be it. We don't know. We didn't see enough to say that.
Right.
So if you don't think that, then keep bringing someone in, as they said, competition. So, and then
Yeah.
defensively, I'm with you. I would my priority on defense corner, but also get an edge guy, somebody who can set the edge, but is a good enough pass rusher can be a threat. So you don't have to keep swapping out. And so I think you can help your run defense if you got a couple guys who could do that. But we'll see. And then the other thing is for Jayden, the importance of we're not on national TV, so that's fine. But the importance of Kingsbury, his coming back, or just, and I don't know, like I don't think either one of us thought he was going to leave at a certain point, but the fact
Yeah.
that he is going to be back
Hmm.
regardless, how important is that?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think it's huge to have that continuity for a young quarterback. I mean, every year for the last 4 years, they've changed offensive coordinators, right? And yeah, Scott Turner,
This would
the
be four.
enemy, third, but they had a different quarterback every year. So there's been zero continuity on the offensive side of the ball, at least since I've been there. So to have that for a young quarterback is huge. And they're just starting. So you don't want to change the system up again. You don't want to, I mean, it's tough. So to have them back is that's a huge win for them. Um, I don't know how long they'll stay. I have a feeling if they have another successful season, he could be gone after this year, depending on the opportunity. But that's he did a really nice job of tailoring the offense to their personnel. And like we talked about this, but I feel like so many play callers say they're going to do that and don't actually do it. And he actually did it. Um, he got guys in the right spot. He got the most out of the talent he had there. And he does have a good bit of talent, but like he got the most out of it. Like, when we were criticizing for, having Terry primarily on the left side, he started moving him around and Terry did great. Like I don't know that any other play caller could get what they got out of Zach Ertz, and that's not a knock on Zach Ertz. I think he just knows how to use them in the best way possible. And I think Zach Ertz would agree too. Like he
Okay.
wasn't playing a ton of snaps, but he was playing effectively. Um, so yeah, that's a win for them, a huge win.
And then, of course, because what's going to happen too is a guy like David Blau might end up leaving. And, it's funny because you're going to lose people. Like, that's the hard part
Sure.
is like, you're going to lose people, but then the key is, how do you replace them? But Blau would also, if he ended up leaving, he has a good relationship with Jay. And we saw them every
Yep.
Friday doing their little game of horse with throwing in the nets and all that.
Yeah.
And the trash talk between the two, not like you can't find somebody else, but that's going to be the challenge is how they develop all of this while losing people
Yeah.
because that's what comes with winning.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at Brian Johnson. I think that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
aside from his talent and his resume, that's a big reason they brought him in is, for depth and to sort of have that coaching pipeline. So if when Cliff does get poached elsewhere, they have somebody who is experienced as a play caller, knows the system, knows the personnel, can have a as seamless as the transition as you possibly can, without cloning the person. So yeah, I think I like the awareness of that possibility. It's not an arrogance like, oh, we're going to be good, we need to have roll deep here. It's no, it's prepared. So you don't kind of have these disjointed years where you go from one system to the next and you feel like you're starting over almost.
And one of the things I want to ask you about, because you just wrote a story on about all the slogans, and we went
Mm-hmm.
through a regime where they use a lot of slogans. But I
Yeah.
know you're not going to write about it unless you think there was an impact with or
Yeah.
because of all that. What did you
Yeah.
think? Like, and why did you think there was an impact with that this time?
Yeah. And I think it's a fine line, right? Like they're winning. So guys buy in, when
Right,
they can see the results themselves, they're going to buy in. When you're losing, those mantras, those sayings just become silly cliches
right,
that drive everybody crazy, right? But I think once you started hearing players like repeat it week after week after week, so you like it got to the point where we knew what Quinn's message was to players because we heard players repeat them,
right.
every single week. We knew what their focus was because players said the same thing, the same language. Um, and even Quinn said that, he knew like the messaging got from him to the assistants to the players when he heard players repeat it. And that singular messaging, I think, was something that was missing for a good bit of time in past years. And that hurt them a lot to not have the same message from coaches, to not have everybody be on the same page. And Quinn, I think, is Jeremy Reeves. He's an elite communicator, which I think is spot on. I
Yeah.
think it's something you have to have as an NFL head coach. Um, and I think that's something that I give Adam Peters a lot of credit because and I think everybody's chasing that hot name play caller, the next up and coming phenom, the Sean McVay type. But I think Adam Peters had the sense to find somebody who could be that elite communicator, who could, galvanize the team and not just like rah galvanize the team, but know how to build it with a plan. And that's exactly what Quinn is. He also is a very fine play caller, but he knows how to build a team from the ground up, which he's showing. So yeah, those mantras became, hopefully they win and it lasts, but it, kind of that anytime or anybody, anytime, anywhere, that just kind of defined who they were, especially as they would win late and on the road and seem to embody who they were.
But it's also, you're right, because with Peters getting him, but it's also this is where it starts at the top that if the
Mm-hmm.
owner isn't agreeable to that, because,
Mm-hmm.
I think if it had, the initial thing, if there was definitely some who would have preferred Ben Johnson in there,
Sure.
but they were able to be, and it wasn't just because Ben Johnson backs out, it's because there are people there who believed in this guy. And so I
Sure.
think, like, I give the owner credit for listening, having an opinion, and maybe having a thought, but then listening to his people
Yeah.
about where you need to go. And I think that's,
Right.
so
Right. No, yeah, definitely. So he's, shown to be the right guy at the right time.
yeah.
Exactly what this team needs. So
Yeah. And So last thing then, with another guy I wanted to ask you about is Bobby Wagner.
Mhm.
Do you bring him back?
I think so, yes. Again, another 1 year deal. Because he's at the point in his career where it's kind of up to him if he wants to
Right.
keep going. He's still playing at a pretty high level. I mean, and nobody at this like 13, 14 years in is going to be playing at the same level they were, 3 years in. Um, but he's been huge for this team, just leadership, mentorship wise. He's kind of been like the glue of that locker room. Similar to Jayden, he's one of those that gets along with everybody. He can poke fun at the rookie quarterback, but also mentor him. I think, his bond with Jayden is, I think that's been really important this season. I know they don't hang out all the time. But that is a voice similar to Zach Ertz that Jayden has been able to rely on. And there's some levity in the locker room too, when they can just poke fun at each other, and it's fun. You don't have to think about like you know working on 2 minute 24/7. Like you can enjoy that you're playing football for a living. So I thought he brought that. He also has the experience in every facet. I mean, he's seen everything by now in the league. He's won how many Super Bowls? He's been to Pro Bowl now 10 times. So like he's seen everything. So he's somebody that can bring that experience, and also just be that glue with young players, veteran players. So yeah, I think you do bring him back on a 1 year.
And I'm with you on that. And then the other, along with like we talking about the locker room,
Hmm.
to me, and I've talked about this a little bit, but it's also to me rare when you have a defensive guy like that who could be a big time alpha in the locker room, right? And
Hmm.
then you have a quarterback of Jayden's stature as it grew and grew and grew. He too could be like, wait a minute, I'm the new guy here.
Hmm.
And yet those two got along. I always felt like that was kind of a big deal in there. Like
I
the
know it's a
fact that they
huge deal.
did,
I
yeah,
totally, and I mean, to me, that speaks to both of them. I think there's a humility about both. I don't. Bobby does not carry himself as a 10-time Pro Bowl. I mean, the guy's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like he doesn't come off as there's no diva to Bobby Wagner. Just talks to everybody. I mean, Jaden's the most impressive to me just because of his age, his self awareness for being 24, whether in football or not. He's the most self aware 20 something I've ever been around. Um, he knows he's a rookie, and whether he's the second overall pick and you know almost surely the rookie of the year, like he's still a rookie. He listens to the vets. He can also poke fun of them. Like he's got a humility and I keep saying that poise word, but he does. He has it. Um, so yeah, he's character-wise that's one of the most impressive things about him is he knows how to he can just get along with everybody.
well, it's funny because it's not just the players too. Like
Hmm.
like Charlie Muley, like we see how he is with Charlie, and it's like
Hmm.
they have a good relationship. And
Yeah.
I think what was it? Charlie said when he told them that he won offensive rookie of the, not an offensive player of the week, not just
Hmm.
rookie, but player of the week. Because this is during the baseball season. They were going back and forth, Mets and Dodgers, Mets and Dodgers, and he kept telling Mets suck, Mets suck, Mets suck. So Charlie texts him, hey, by the way, it's coming out tomorrow. You won player of the week. His reply was, the Mets suck. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's because he doesn't take himself seriously. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and
Yeah.
I just think that like it's rare to have somebody I think like that.
Yes. Yes. He does not take himself seriously at all, but he is serious about his craft and
Yes, very
and
sure.
putting in the work. Like he does not take that lightly. But yeah, it's like that sort of respectful banter. Like he doesn't like he's the same with Charlie, same with Bobby Wagner. Like they
Yep,
poke fun, but they have the ultimate respect for each other.
yep. Nikki, you're the best. What do you got to plug? Anything?
Um,
Go ahead.
yeah, just read the Washington Post if you don't mind. That'd be
There's
great.
millions of
Yeah.
people listening. Don't blow your chance here.
Yeah, no, just read the Washington Post. That'd be awesome. Oh, you guys won. Thank you.
All right, there you go. Nikki, thank you very much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Nikki for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back on Monday with another episode. So, talk to you next time.